And then one day, without warning, within the old creaking mansion on Old Creaking Hill, all our electric light suicided in its eternal sleep. And my grandpa sat us down under a billion candles, fireflies, stars, gas explosions, and other miscellaneous sources. Good old natural light defeating the cold, unnatural dark of this new night. His old head on his bloody old body told us a bloody old ghost story, and the story went: money in these walls, ghouls in this stomach, extras in these wings to play you better. And that's just the candied hacksaw I keep under the bed to prepare for psychic intruders, severed heads. And like my grandpa before him, perhaps inevitably even more so, and onwards so, intruders, and speak not of those intruders who seek to summon a tentacular hysteria around the 6.5-inch protrusions of hypothetical intrusions. It could not be bigger, but it could be. They're the ones to really keep a gun out for. Oh, dearly beloved railway transistor, plug socket, congregation, the last remaining hand-painted scale model of that special liberty available. Maximum joy with censored, sordid details, Schrodinger's Libertarian Party, admin, retail, parish council. I would like to return it immediately without being all like that. You can't make a politics wholly out of the natural toxic fumes from your hyper-realistic Mother Nature fuckdoll. Someone better, fringes more neatly plaited, more elegantly, can probably get their illegal herbs in a row, get the horse to water, make it instead drink camera or cider with Rosie the Riveter with backs to the kitchen wall, the bodies in the herb garden. Our special relationship to the literal, to the little leagues, to the minor leagues. We shot ladybugs by the light of fireflies. Grandpa said, it's how the fireflies survive, keep from growing scarlet, blood on the triangle, blood on the theremin, Cottingley ferries for empire, huge structures collapsing, spring blossom on the winter isle, I fuck logic for breakfast, wait for the cockroaches to come home to roost on the corpse of our nuclear annihilation, made in the USA by hands, you know, the good kind. Extra tumor on the national membrane, the different ending kept on going in the static, horrific accidents of birth, huge structures collapsing, homestead horror, special relationships, small mutation. Money in these walls, ghouls in this stomach, their civil war, not your mustard duvet cover. There's some middlemen crushing horses down by the lake, really ripping out their eyes and throats and tongues, and they seem pleasant enough to themselves. Watching harbour fades to ink, the horizon is also horses, culture's few personalities, some dying embers of the bonfire, Flanders picking all Hebridean berries in extinction, draining all archipelagos, going all Kayana Squatsy on that sterile laboratory conditions shit. Philip Glass, the 20th century, big stoner paranoia years. You fucking what, mate? Huge structures collapsing, money in these walls, ghouls in the stomach. Pills were different then. You knew what you were taking when you took. And then one day, without warning, within the old creaking mansion on Old Creaking Hill, all our electric light suicided in its eternal sleep. And my grandpa sat us down under a billion candles, fireflies, stars, gas explosions, other miscellaneous sources. Good old natural light defeating the cold unnatural dark of this new night. His old head on his bloody old body told us an old ghost story, and the story went: tearing out the Arga, tearing in the Arga, the reaping world's another world, the threshing world's another world, and they all live prettily under ice, waiting for their fleshly time in the skinny zone. Pastry lattice, ball gag, back of the shop, faded flag. Something weeps in the distance, and I pull tasteful wool over my eyes, scream it a lullaby from safe manufacturing distance, special relationship to greenery, massacre, envelopes, lulling hills, wandering hands, made in Britain by hands, you know, the good kind. You ever see a horse-drawn cart filled with spoils of war returned we run? You ever see a field mouse drive the tractor home to roost upon? Those bucking, those bloody, you know who, what, and how's. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You ever notice how there's no kids called Job running around, made in Britain by wandering hands? You know, the good kind. My ancestors were fields of wheat on my father's side, apple orchards on my mother's. Didn't see a lock and key till they moved to the city. Nothing to do with it. If you ask me, nothing to do with it. Is it a ghost, or did you just throw a white sheet over it? Humbugs, lemon sherbets, rhubarb custards, they were all in jars, keeping the small intestine from spilling onto the shop floor, preserved in sickened hive machine. And then one day, without warning, within the old creaking mansion on Old Creaking Hill, all our electric light suicided in its eternal sleep. And my grandpa sat us down under a billion candles, fireflies, stars, gas explosions, other miscellaneous sources, good old natural lights defeating the cold, unnatural dark of this new night. His old head on his bloody old body. And he told us a bloody old ghost story, and the story went. I think it needs to be longer, we'll see. What am I going to read next? Okay. This is called Second Son Syndrome. What left rust on, belted to the summer wound joint? That is the state these people romanticize. Greco-Roman extension, want desperate material brute force to facsimile any love with their fata morgana of hedgerows and thrushes and snowy robins, and the absolute and most vitally none of. Downright disgusting, offensive, not fit for hanging, bloody murder for me to be marginally inconvenienced. The knife rack holds the nation betwixt its greasy guts gutted. This is all you are. What it is something makes possible the hole that the screw enters being left for crevice. The screw enters via roadside poppy crushed on the wax jacketed hard shoulder. No trial, simply excellent common public sense excreted via the tiny eclipsed pores on the side of the bottle of milk. Used to have cream on top, you know, we'd scrape it off and scramble, fight to the death like real children in a real country with a real milkman, a real man leaking real milk. Uncoerced, I make my bed to prevent any lying. Back then, but before, a socialite, I simply owned vast, almost unwieldy quantities of friends, suspended above various platforms. They all go by Luther Blissett, Luther Blissett, Luther Blessett, Luther Blissett. I adored them like my own pseudonymous attempts at squandering the riches of my telecommunications empire. The multiple and the multiplex, clawing air, I cried to the harvest beast. The baked beans are the hollest, the polis to themselves. Dark clouds closing in. Holistic lifestyle is a redundancy, as they are simply whether sugar rich or sugar free. Ultimately, not long now. Locusts approach stage right. Synonymous. Lifestyle is holos. Then the rocket scientists came marching down to stop the Ides of March from leaking silicone into the utmost echelons of those weaponed speaking, those echelons we imagine drenched in portent plasma. And we got some things right after all fens collapsed, made ink blots of the scrying world, sunk the sunken ships to spite the right. Time sucks it up and like that beats into submission, infinite effort. History is overflowing with examples bereft of well-placed matchsticks, plug gaps in the narrative. 2001, open pop stars drink the bloody water, emerge with the taste for human flesh. I'm going to read one more. It's called by Ronya. How old barbed wire disintegrates stylish tetanus and blotched sun eggs the channel on. Mincemeat's furtive rattan embraced common sense upon the wretched populace. Their ancestral village, lone vestibule, exiled marzipan, praline, the thrust of the issue, contaminate the assorted chocolate box, mayonnaise, heinous, melted sweet salt muck. Upon the streets, or rather the flourishing local community, so ideally suited, serviced with fine array of up and coming beribboned people, sheep people, with their famous, world famous handicraft of crafting quaint stitches in the quaint stitches among oak, superglue, femurs, resolve hardened among 70s, 70 big pink 70s all in a row, paisley plug wound grooves of the international no space colony spun to the waste of blood, makes light work of sodden brow, kettle twist, find me bell bottoms swaying, fucking John Barleycorn, hulling the sweat, hungover, haggling trot fringe memorabilia, white vinegar drips up the reflexive bodies, toll bells hoarding, finding myself in yet another field. The predicament is what in good God's name is a field when it's at home, comprehensive file or reality is only to be found in farther fields, rather than a field, a plane, though itself a genre of field, a plan bereft of vision. I chew cud like starlight. My natural resources examine the farther gas fields of slovenly epiphany, exogenous lanterns lighting up the woodland clearing, could have indulged multiple extraneous menage-a-troises with the latter half of the decade. We were all one at the same time as everyone else, but those glittering traitors left me to be one with them on my own. Mirroring the shaggy dog tail I have memorized from being one with them, my orchid collection grows high tea and mighty tabloid backlash, long velvet cloak of genocidal eccentrics with a knack for advocacy. And now we're marching this muddy lane with the international arms trade. Beautiful men, the lot of them, focused on a horizon as they should be, breadth of rag and bone, kinder, Bellevue, drool, taffeta, shove that pig's foot a little closer to the fire. The evenings are longer than the decades, so below the worms, and further congealed cubic miles upon miles of worms and the earth.
The key to the allegorical form is a basement in Alabama, robbed of topsoil. Nothing grows in these gray zones where the party is a paralyzed flash mob and shrapnel or glitter, wishful fictions of renaming the playground. But deep down, you know that language was never actuarial. Call to get a quote. Call the super who moved us to blow beauty and brains all over the supply chain. Made fresh daily, this hesitant declension of flowers captures something inexchangeable in the trade route. Skies imply the absence of aluminum, so the users return in twos. When the last joint is fused, no knees remain to prey on. But they prey on impulse and riddle and error, pray to God and robotics and insolvency. These new birds can memorize the address, reciting the bushes in evidentiary backstroke. Zoom in to find scribbles in the window saying death to executive realism. This efficiency is killing too efficiently. Each day is crowded and lonely, coagulating into atoms instead of a real block or body, an indivisible slab of granite on the island. Interspersed behind the columns is a hyphenated blind spot. When you least expect it, the shadows assemble into nighttime. Inside is an isolating colony of hell, so described by the one who confided in the operator. He repeats the welcome line in crisis, saying, "Hi, it's Chris from Loss Prevention, calling to prevent this loss," the operator unable to solve a snowfall that started so long ago. Calls come in from Lebanon, confusing the continents. The line says, "My friend is collapsing like boxes in the brutally wet desert behind cardboard cutouts of real horizons and representations of daylight." There is nothing neutral in a place name, but the gruesome confusion of nursery rhymes take the reindeer way too seriously. From the inside, you can see no snow atop the mountains, but a suspiciously milky runoff feeds these greedy palms facing higher wait times, putting pressure on the weather to remit to this standard of service and delivery and debt. Compulsively Googling running shoes, sending wishes into the universe, not as truth, but a carefully translated message, confessed only to stamp out the appetite. Ashamed to stow that shame away. Call back a call center in Texas to say you never got the message. Log a complaint that the box never came. Jason says the scooter is yours for free, so you are free to ride around the joint anarchic birthday as the renegade you claim to be. Jason is killed by a chorus of complaints made in office, wrought in local rock as a monument to a very big mistake. Now you have to repay. Now you have to repent and repay and love him. But nothing too difficult this time. It is too much to tune in all the time. Blow up the dune buggy. Let the piñata leak stocks and options onto the confections collected in its belly. In real time, in another frame, the fragile tumescent coin purse burst its urine all over the runway. Her shimmering initials spell out the boundaries of a carapace in heat. Each element cries out the same, but these ballads are neutralized in unison, blacked out in rounds to form an insular melodic plot point that vocalizes its goal, and then dies. Prime time whistles between the wind chimes. Some tall order has slipped beneath the cracks of a strike to find your wish in a tinted fulfillment. The trail was never so honestly blazed. Boxes and boxes and boxes are blocking the way. Bleached urchins leach toxins in the office. Balloons of too much future just burst into the uniform. You peed in your pants. You spilled magic all over the balance sheet. The unseasonal breeze is drying alibis for downtime in the break room. Ragged hands crowded around the refund saying grace for different destinations. Each arrival discloses the story of its origin. Every delivery bruises its escape route. Reach out to touch the box, but leave no trace. There are still no solutions to waiting, but the future is a fruit with many names. A package came for you. It was grazed by amber showers for the 4th time today. In that sense, they came for you too. Okay, this one is shorter. It's called Steep Ravine. Anemones incriminated on rock respond shyly to fingers in the socket, suggesting the face is just an expression, or else daylight hits different below water. If water were a condition of rock and not the other way around, our jagged avenue of differently shaped lanes would swallow both ends of the rubber spaghetti, clutched sensibly between two opposing instincts that both kill the cat. Sand keeps the time between your hips, at which point I open them up in order to come back the day after tomorrow. If months were days, if the birdsong were spelled out phonetically, I would come back home and cut the first slices small, knowing that cake is just as fickle in size as states. For instance, we had no way of knowing the shape of California before we got there. Sort of performative that I'm drinking in between poems so you know when they start and stop. This one is called In the Flowers of Young Girls in Shadow. Lifted up by blondes and the comic victory of the particular, like the city and my mom in a fake spontaneous duet. The financial district falls into her lap so that no good thing can be saved from a three-legged relay with the bad. Layers of grudge and wonder collapse into a single unsalted cracker, while miles of superstitious sun signs combust in a triangle of fire with liquor and wet wipes. Reggie curls into ringlets of love and disgust, nestling in settlements of incest and redness at the heart of his own sterile starfish. Neither ass nor mouth is undone by the circumference of the other, but the bedtimes of both get stretched by nights of progressively wider size, an axis of appetite wrapped in plastic and dipped in Teflon honey. Awakened by the displaced taste of inverted cane, you realize anxiety always rides before the reason it is anxious to erase. Laws and observation lock inverted lips like Charlie's chocolate ancestors in this single king-sized bed. Golden favors, a Mr. Clean eraser, a circle of dirt and sanitation, in which each outruns the other at the exact same pace. Early attempts to tuck the chin as you dive leave you blind to the alliance of dexterity and class. Money and sunscreen make the body spontaneously align, as displaced volumes of water speak inverse volumes of the body's native grace. Somewhere in the middle of all of this, there's a timeline of fungible love in which I forgot to say that I couldn't come home on half days to find the light of two perverted sons doing sex things on the bed, since the golf balls in my wallet cannot feel or be felt. Topical fondants take new names when the tips are black or frosted, so the flaxen are outed by the only sexed adjective in English, getting off beneath screens of mesh and jean, left with the disharmonic blonde of an improvised neon costume and the generic heather jersey of the Colorado Rockies. Riding that wave, not the cool synthetic scoreboard of moral proxies, I avoid the challenge. To live one way or another. Escaping from the shade inside that one maternal cubby and the secrets of its warm performance fleece, I draw two blonde sons in the analyst's secondhand dollhouse, resurrecting the waxy grave of dispossessed yellows and a single-track message from my parents, that it will be okay, that this genealogical contract cannot be renewed. Two cousins, cornrows, code words hidden in the postcards. In the woods, we measure the circumference of recessive reds and cry beneath the shade of a camo Abercrombie visor. Jackie says her nipples are the smallest in a competition to which no one consented. Smears of ejected chicken tenders and tender sheets of wood pulp are an end rhyme with the fireworks of the first official social. Duets of cream and sunburn. Our wrists write the sequel, the classic khaki braid of rich Nantucket bracelets. These details go dormant in the winter as other kinds of release are sustained in the shape of vacant upstate cabins where butts butt heads with head and jump through hoops of softened Swiss cheese. Eggs on the underside of a frying pan, a brain lit up by the unseasonal desire for more life than any life can give. Now and then, portraits of young girls present two alternative futures in which I accept either the meltdown of mountaintop removal or the secondary embellishments of Jell-O. Each infertile world waits just beyond the path of greatest pleasure, indefensible against the path of least disgrace. Parental love is enormous and mistakenly cast as the foil to all future partners. The jury admits to this, duets of Gatorade and shame, a miscarriage of flowers in the garden. Dancing with that one particular star is the unchecked patient zero of all successive tingles on the warm embroidered scoreboard of the emerald velvet love seat. I cover the airspace with my grandma's checkered Afghan, swapping one profanity for another, weaving secrets which I pay to reveal. On another couch, I confess to jealousies that won't leave the session. Tonight is different from all other nights, but there is a reason that the question is asked so many times, even if it is obvious why we dip twice and why you and I choose to recline. Whoops. Two more short. This one is, the title is just like an approximate sign, like a wavy equal sign. Unplugged beside the evacuated sea salt, you reset, weaning off the elliptical lifetime of April. Come back into the scopic resurrection of a weekend at the beach, still discharging its celebrity months beyond naturalized comfort. Come down inside the bed. At some point, coincidence triumphs, evicting a hypothesis of cause that stayed too long, unwelcome in your apartment. The cats give a rash. The gift basket does not ask you to come back. But the plush revival underwear inherits the mood inside the room and your heart, mimicking the inability to wake up different every day. As if all things being equal, no thing could ever compare. I study your face, which is vulgar and sweet like the irreducible mystery of Cool Whip. You are there and yet not at your disposal. The catheter redirects our epic to a park where a secret forensic tenderness overestimates the integrity of lunch. There are several things you and I spy. The stranger's fake ID is the most westerly coordinate of pleasure. Every key is a double invagination of floor space and ordinary goodness. Recycle the entrepreneurial freeze. Get swept away by your life in miniature. The dioramic East Coast is waiting for your little world to board, propelled by the jet stream of bagels. It's exactly what it looks like. Most days, I imagine myself wrapped around my mother's ankle, or one of several lesser proxies. Dreams downplay the balance of what can't be staged in life, where I imagine the force of synthesis to be stoppable by a single disposable contact lens placed on the tip of a penis. Yours or mine, we keep switching places. How else to felonize the scoliosis of class or have uncommon consequence in a zero-fault state? The air above the flame waves you in like the approximate equality of August. Someday, someone will remember us pregnant with 2 twin squiggles and reciprocal piggyback, flying in the erotic lockstep of dolphins. The invitation in fall is an ornament to the recourse of fun. It brings you back. And then just one more poem. It's pretty short. Okay. This one's called Pearl. Let us rob them. Oops. Sorry. Let us rob them. When this family is discovered to be the secret of that family, it is difficult to keep. Up in the steam room, nursed by noise and heat, the faucet talks down tapestries of scenes telling something other than stories. Trial by liar, lying by lateral fires, and a race car twin-sized coincidence. Winded by 10 strokes of butterfly, I don't remember anything of the room. The event postdates the mood it turned into. Agree from here on to proceed down court without feet. Floored by hands and extremely good reasons for being here. Missed the meet, met again by the museum on steps of gifts and grass. The best thing about my birthday is yours. Weeks go by like strokes of fat on glass in heat, greased for ejection in one piece. The open field opens its ear for you. One finger remains cautiously on the game piece, but we leave before learning that the resemblance has several accepted spellings. Light speaks in threes. Love infests the brain like seedless melon. In June, the gems are neither house nor guest, but a reaction to someone coming in. Let them rob us and us them. The mold breeds weakly, like the roof was only ever a suggestion.
Anna est un oiseau. Anna est, je l'aimerais Anna, être son nid. De très longs arbres bordent la Seine, et moi je fais des ronds dans l'eau, en attendant qu'elle se souvienne. Don't forget me not and. Mais s'en fout bien, Anna sans doute, et je me doute bien, moi, qu'elle s'en fout. N'empêche, Anna fait mon oiseau, et moi, cloué au sol, j'agite fort les bras pour me plumer des ailes, à cet épouvantail, ma carcasse. Ce qui me fait silence, si tu savais, Anna, la lourde plaque que soulève un oiseau volé en plein ciel. Alors les yeux baissés, je plonge dans la Seine. Imagine qu'un jour, tout ce que j'imagine. Anna, j'ai les mains qui s'agitent, et ça me court partout, la fissure. J'ai peur, si peur, comme je tremble. J'entends un craquement qui contamine mon langage, mes insomnies. Je les passe une à une à me cabrer la tête. Chute de mots partout. Toujours les os qui grincent. La faille avance, inéluctable. Mon corps ouvert manque d'espace. L'air est hirsute, je suis en deux et m'étonne à nouveau de savoir que j'existe. Aimer justifie ça et m'ajuste. Il neige sa voix dans ma tête et je me boucle les oreilles pour ne plus rien entendre d'autre. Lentement, les flocons recouvrent la Seine. Derrière moi, aucune trace. Nul ne saura, je suis passé. Remonte les courants de l'eau, descend celui de mon cerveau. Anna ne saura rien de l'oiseau qu'elle me fait. Anna m'efface, Anna me fait le couteau dans le cœur, le vent dans les poumons et l'éclair sur l'épaule. Petit Bessos volé à mort. À l'intérieur, mes sauts de singe qui se crochent tombent tout seuls d'une illusion à l'autre. En un seul jour, Anna, elle me dépiote tout le corps, m'essore le vocabulaire et ça me fait trembler. Pour elle, j'ai planté un marronnier dans ma cervelle, un des plus grands, pour 1000 hivers et qu'elle puisse avoir des racines. Anna, Anna, my osotis, don't forget me, don't forget. Moi, je n'y parviens pas. Non, je ne parviens pas à m'éteindre. Anna joue à tromper. Elle trompe mes nuits, qu'ai-je à dire? Je me réveille toutes les secousses. À chaque fois, j'entends sa voix. Anna joueuse et qui me joue. You're my danger, Anna. Mais elle reste muette, choisit tous ses silences quand les miens me retroussent la gorge. Alors, la nécessité absolue d'inventer ce poème et pouvoir dire enfin son nom en ayant moins peur de l'user. Oui, je sais bien, tout ça, c'est toujours le langage, une question de mort. Comment ne pas louper alors? Qu'importe, je m'y cogne à tout ça, parce que la vie que j'ai perdue, et puis cette autre que j'ai à perdre, pas n'importe comment, non, pas pour n'importe quoi. Anna, je voudrais lui dire que je voudrais ne plus attendre, mais que je l'attendrai encore. Je patienterai jusqu'au bout et jusqu'aux arbres, jusqu'aux oiseaux. Que les oiseaux, ça me dévore, Anna, les oiseaux. Alors profites-en parce après mon langage, il sera foutu. Bon sang, Anna, cette douceur, c'est toi, et ce baisseau terrible. Tout ça, mes deux bras qui s'ouvrent, ça me fait le corps un peu moins malade, ton coup de bec dans ma douleur. Si tu savais, Anna, comment ça me traverse, me redimensionne à l'espace. Et dans le lieu où je m'invente, il n'y a rien à fuir. Je suis totalement hors sujet. Tu sais, Anna, avec le marronnier qui déborde mon crâne, parfois je ne sais plus où sont passés mes os, qui de la feuille ou moi tremble. Caillou blanc, cercle bleu, qui lire aujourd'hui pour te suivre? Quelle heure est-il? Dans quelle syntaxe? Je change de cercle, t'écris une lettre, t'écris puis déchire. Puis-je envoyer tout ça? La déchirure. Dans les courants de l'eau, j'ajoute un peu de ciel. Trempe un caillou, un beso. Je trempe un beso dans la vie. Les cercles, c'est Anna qui dessine, c'est elle qui fait tourner. Anna est celle qui danse et fait danser la scène. C'est moi que l'on croit voir. C'est Anna qui est là. Ça veut dire quoi, Anna? Ça veut dire quoi avoir un oiseau dans le sang? Sais-tu ce que ça fait, ma chair criblée de coups de bec? Et ces milliards de trous pour ces milliards de manques. Anna, mi huracán, mi tormenta desconocida. Eres mi escándalo, yo te gusto escandalosamente. Anna, je voudrais lui dire la vie. Il y a belle lurette, que tout est foutu, Anna. Pour le cercle de base, un gran brazzero, un tan grande brazzero pour la piste de danse. Anna, la vie, c'est à hurler, et hurle fort cet oiseau-là, à me tordre les os de la tête. Mon corps, j'en vois l'usine. Je vois bien tous ces mots qui me pèsent des tonnes. Arrache-moi, arrache-moi, Anna, cette langue de terre. Fais-moi sortir un peu du sol, que tout ne soit pas pour la casse, que cette course vers le vide m'épuise vers un mieux. La vie, c'est de la paille. On fait un feu avec, qui ne brûle que pour nous, qui ne nous brûle que nous, et puis après. Juste merci, Anna. Tu m'arraches les mots que nul ne sait bien vivre. now in English. Okay. And sorry, Stuart, if my pronunciation isn't very good, but I do my better. Okay. Hannah is a bird. Hannah, I'd love to be her nest. Tall trees line the Seine and buoy the water. I while away the time, waiting for her to remember. Don't forget me not, but Hannah couldn't care less, no doubt, and there's little doubt she doesn't care. Hannah is my bird, and all the while nailed to the ground, I flap my arms to shed the scarecrow's wings, my carcass. What keeps me silent? If you knew, Hannah, the heavy black a bird lifts flying across open sky. And so eyes lowered, I dive into the Seine, imagining that one day, all that I imagine. Hannah, my hands are restless and it's coursing through me, the fracture. I'm afraid, so afraid, how I'm shaking. I hear a cracking contaminate my language. Sleepless nights, I go from one to the next, head tipped back. Words cascading everywhere, always the bones that creak. The gap is widening, inescapable. My open body has no room. The air is coarse. I'm halt and surprised once again when I realize that I exist. Loving justifies this and adjusts me. It's knowing her voice in my head, and I close my ears to block out anything else. Slowly, flakes cover the Seine. Behind me, no trace. No one will know. I passed by. The tide rises. My mind's own falls. And I will know nothing of the bird that she makes me. Anna rubs me out. Anna puts a knife in my heart, wind in my lungs, a flash on my shoulder, little buses stolen from Norge. Inside, monkey lips cling for all alone, from one illusion to the next. In a single day, Hannah strips my body, rings out the vocabulary, and it makes me shake. For her, I planted a chestnut tree in my mind, one of the biggest, for sound winters, and so that she might have roots. Hannah, my exoticism, don't forget me, don't forget. I won't be able to, no, I won't be able to switch myself off. Hannah plays at deception. She cheats my nights. What can I say? I awaken all the jolts each time I hear her voice. Playful Hannah is playing me. You're my danger, Hannah. Yet mute she stays, shows all her silences while mine gather in my throat. And the absolute necessity of writing this poem, of being able at last to say her name, less fearful of using it. Yes, I know very well all this is always language, a question of death. How to stay on track? What does it matter? I don't give a damn, because the life that I have lost, and then this other that I know I have to lose. Not any old how, nor for any old thing. Hannah, I would like to tell her that I would like to no longer wait, yet I will go on waiting. I will wait patiently up to the end and up to the trees, to the birds. Let the birds devour me, Hannah, the birds. So make the most of it, because after my language will be screwed. Good grief, Hannah, this delicacy, is it you? And that terrible beso. All this, my two arms unfolding, make my body a little less ill. Your big pecking in my agony, if you knew, Hannah, how it runs through and redimensions me in space. And in the place where I create myself, there's nothing to flee. I'm totally off topic. Hannah, you know, with the chestnut tree outgrowing my skull, sometimes I no longer know where my bones went falling from the tree or me. White pebble, blue circles. What reader will follow you today? What time is it? In which syntax? I swap circles, write a letter to you, then tear it up. May I send them to you, the shreds? To the current of the water, I had a little sky, dip a pebble, a beso. I dip a beso into life. The rings, it's Anna who is drawing them. She's the one circling. It's Anna dancing who makes the same dance. They think it's me they are seeing, but Hannah is the one there. What does it mean, Hannah? What does it mean having a bird in your blood? Do you know how it feels, your flesh riddled with big pecks and these billions of holes for these billions of missing things? Hannah, mi huracán, mi tormenta desconocida. Eres mi escándalo y yo te gusto escandalosamente. Hannah, I would like to tell her about life long, long ago, and that everything is crude, Hannah. For the original circle, un gran brazzero, un tan grande brazzero for the dance floor. Life, Hannah, is wailful, and this bird wails loudly until my bones twist from the head. My body, I see its factory. I see all those words weighing down. Pull from me, Hannah, this earth language. Bring me above ground a little, so that everything isn't for breaking, so that this race to the void exhausts me into a better life. It's true, for making fire with, burning only for us, burning only us, and then only thank you, Hannah. You pull the words from me that none know how to live.
Here's a tassel for your book to join unfinishing. A little nothing in an open knot. That's your form in a tousling of your book, which is a tassel. Not to be untidy, but to cut design in knotted openness. Not to mess up, but to comb informally. No sparing, no tussle, just embrace. A contactual agreement on a bookmark that all but moves. Your illuminated photography, the Botticellian infrastructure of your trees, blurs up close and grid offline. The enhanced scaffolding of your bottle trees is an inner overlay so far outside that placelessness is set on a prepared table. The surface of the sheet is played on like a prepared piano. The on in played on, in being played on, implies disruptive retouch, manipulate mitosis. What's subject to this violent caress, this growth, this all but biochemical incursion, paper worked with an image movement's infusion and degradation, only to be worked and worked again in repetitions of cutting and pasting, bending and straightening, wearing and weathering. Softening and pliability are induced in the breaking of adhesions, the slicing of leaves. Pleats, please, sings the goddess of folds. Plie, 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 shouts the godfather of soul, falling to the floor like an open fringe, mellow in microsurgical feel. Your analchemical city's faveled metastasis, landscape burrowed in ruined augmentation, flayed polis, delayed layout, skeletal ornament, post-constructive imposition, Reykjavik adorned in adobe like an interclimatic hymn, its jewel-encrusted roofs made appropriate to new unnatural weather. When the infrastructure is a caress, like a pillowed aura that holds the city up, then what holds the city up is the commune. Then the history of the city waits for us like a spiral, lattice, shred, volumination, blueprints after some living, replacement planes, that taped Mondrianic dimensionality that undoes the work at the rendezvous of victory, boogie, and incompleteness. Incompleteness meaning both more and less than complete, means your work is incomplete, angled, base foregrounded, then removed for breathing. You talk about cutting away some of the legibility of the photograph, and that's to fasten, layer, and fold where laceration and discharge are resident complexities. A surrealization of the photographic object that's not bound up with hidden meaning, but commuted in a material content that's not revealed, but presented in new construction. Revelation ain't the right word. Deliverance is the right word. Deliverance in veer as refreshment. A layer is discerned and removed, then placed on top of the place it left. That's the photograph where they found sculpture, then freed it on ventilated terraces, then fled. Pregnant upon disappearing with deliberate slowness, incision and insertion reunited after long false division, entasseled but not separate, tessellations that are, as you say, too round to frame. Tiling, tilling, the trace of aspiration stays on top of what's been layered over air's ectopic presence. Tiling air made out of tilling air. Disjoint open sets in plain filling arrangement of plain figures. A plain song of muted twisting like a paper piece. Some contrapuntal lamination of patterns against mastery. When tiles overlap or blur, is it still tessellation? You finger comb the photographic plane, tropicalizing very large disarrays made suitable for overhearing. Perry scratching the surface of things in counter-Amish plainness, applying soulful friendliness of the plane, making skeletal clumps like blood, Omer, or Cecil's long-sung clusteral city of serpents, panache and fuzz, or some fast twitch strum and battery, some kind of smoky seconded emulsion, cutting away contextual sky. So if the blueprint comes after the building's been inhabited, if it's worn like a garment, its fabrication rendered incomplete and it's becoming fabric, and it's having been texturalized, then what's the time of the photograph? What's the photograph's moment if, in being a blueprint, it comes before what's been photographed? The photograph, even of the out and gone, is an always anticipatory afterlife, living, giving, and covering aeration, an endearing crease, an excessive and endowing reference. The open book, the endless folding of the moment. This is tiling, lining notes. A river is studio agitation through one window. A loft in rock bottom soft support and rumble. A room, a cell, a light in the way the walls walk off in jubid pat and tiling. The pattern on the river floor all absolute and indiscernible unless you walk it. In the river, as all this rotary soar of the damned and held, sous vide in second linearity, parading in this tubid lining out of the basic line, all in against itself in black and blue switch black, and Beatrice is smiling on seeing all our little differences together in the venereal collection area's serial eddying of how we taste and feel inseparably. There's just so many ways to keep going along the way. The miraculous influence is delted in Floridian branch or mangrove double silt, Coahoma County moaning or swung Oklahoming, a gap band or a gap in nature kind of sounding, drowning, burning, this continually Caribbean being on fire of the river. From river to river on canal and torn to another bleeding place we from in our Lenape shift, our Delaware gap band, sending geography through a sycophantic horn chart of the natural city in and out of its broken window, cadence still cruising mobile studio, unnamed and making waves is what it sounds like. Lining, tiling, moaning, smiling, drowning, bleeding, burning, seeing, sending, sounding just like Joseph Daly, Thurman Barker, Dave Holland, and Sam Rivers. Tilling, limning notes. Tile or fleck, as if daub or stroke, but a cut of blue. Flesh cut a glance of blue for train, and the general murder, all but mute for Amadou Diallo. You have to get so close to see the glance and shine, you get too close to see the glint in flames. Read the braille of trembling through the sea of inflection, éclat, écligné, and cling to the firmness of our wave function. A clarity of sweep and black as dawn dawns on us with such gravity, a gathering of matter, a matter of gathering Jack Whitten's Rose Corona, working violently with outpouring, work made of unmaking a monastic love of sequence, in solemn intermittent space-time sewn with the decorative weight of Edward Whitten and Bill Frank Whitten. This scroll of cut out broken canvas looks like looking with a movie. Injured, lined out surface adores flatness with thick character acting. Mapping distressed by aerial grounding, scuffed ornament, microtonal abrasion all over again. The textural slur of tilling and limning, Emma and Emily whispering, the precise irregularity of anamosaic gesture, is a habitat of schools in a bessemer tree, a reef corral in blue hint shadow, graphics soft enough to test and more and wreathe. A totem is a haunted keyboard, and this ingenious mechanical device is so we can differ in elegiac practice. For criticism is grounded differing, and deciphering is separation scale. This is, I read one more of mine, and then I want to read something that of someone else's, if y'all don't mind. This is called Sylph-Tet, a trialogue of self and soul. Sylph said, nah, we selfless. Soul said, shit, yeah. We look back in wonder and visit like whirlwind, like we the dusty air we in, like little violent stones, varnishing, then vanish in caressive soul and curve and cursive and straight mumble. In the prefatory secret we press down on, real quiet through sun and moon, like a sylphide etching where we whisper etching, recess, erosion, nonsense, massive fete, as soul dance, as soul at rest. Self, that motherfucker, said, we write that we don't have to write together. We never want to take our solemn pleasure. We write together like we don't. So what we write is barely born, Self said, like he was sad. Why we act like we ain't a band? See that, Soul said? Rob Brown just saw something with Kid Jordan. Daniel Carter just got lifted by the air he breathes, lifted out of self like soul at visiting. Soul smiled. Visiting our ass off is how we grub and underbreathe, off edge and grind and fly. Look here now, here we go, Sylph said, in ruins, through ruins. Sylph's alternate flesh tone be brown, be flat, Soul said. Not in between the elements of air and earth, Sylph said. Spirits blow real pretty but dirty, the good black dirt of the soul and selflessness for ruins, Soul said. Then here come Kid downstairs, and William said, you all right, Kid? And Wadada said, he all right, he just blew his heart out. Kid's all right, Sylph said, in ruins, in that windblown stance, the wind blow, conquered, but ain't killed yet in the general strike of breathing, Soul said, when we be kneeling, tilling, pulled, shipped, held up by leaves. Sylph said, tree dance. Their visit is the secret life of plants, them cutthroat palm blades. Ain't nothing to get but feel, Soul said, on precarious string. Feel not in between touch and slash what fronds feel. Hold up, sever in the same breath, which Sylph lays down on blue. All y'all air always be fighting, somebody said to all y'all air. Somebody be saying that shit all the time, and it's true. Our air, Soul said, that clear brown motion Kid blow while Daniel lived how we be fighting all the time. We be running through how they leave us in ruins, orange and bright red on that rock and looking for sticks. And let me say, Soul said, before we keep on going, that some kind of way you sure look good the way you visit through the wall. You visit through the wall like Jeff be sensing music, seismically, Sylph said, in broken strokes of point brush, all elven and mysterious and mischievous and Seine, and that secret we all know but can't believe it. You mean almost to scream in ruins and deliverance of bridges as a secret structure. You mean every wordlessness in blistered gliding, two-monged double and triple tongue mindfulness, air river, riffer, rifter of air, Sylph said to Soul, Soul smiling all alto in the all too spiral sun. After all is said and done, we always got something else to say about Sylph's grime, Soul said. All that bottom in the way they breathe. Sylph breathed like Henry Grimes, Soul said. Their flight like bottom land, not in between your toes, tapping in and out of shoes depending on the weather and y'all weaponry. Weather seemed like it's always bad, Sylph said. Chicago just a town in Mexico. We just messing with velvet, Soul said Sylph, which is all we want. Self don't want no softness on his hands while we be burning. Let's blow his shit away before we burn. And I just want to read one more thing. It's this beautiful poem, or the end of a great and beautiful poem by Morid Barghouti called Midnight. And I just wanted to share it with y'all because it's been keeping me up in both senses of the term. Here, where the air is under lock and key, the walls of my apartment become the borders of my country. And where darkness is illuminated by the oil of madness, I will raise for myself a master banner. I will call my home appliances an army, my walking stick a scepter, the eggs in my fridge a parliament that will yell at the council of ministers, by which I mean the shelf of vegetables, quick to rot, as you well know. I will put a red carpet on the stairs for the visitors of my imagination, and let potted plants on either side be the guards of honor. I will appoint some birds to my diplomatic corps to declare to all nations that I have a sovereign flag. I will send them as my ambassadors to all the nations of this earth to sing the praises of what remains of my madness. To the victorious, I will send an unsettling message in these simple questions. Enemies, something gives me reason to doubt. All the gods of Olympus support you. They receive their orders according to your desires. They point their arrows in whatever direction you point. The earth revolves according to your wish. Triumph is your vocation. Every war against us raises you higher and higher while throwing us down to our fate like cypress branches in the darkness of a fireplace. Everything you build lasts and expands while what we build is carried away by elegies. We are destined for the grave while your hands are destined for the champagne of triumph. Anyone on your list is a dead man. Die and he dies. Enemies, victory has become your daily routine, like your morning toast. Why then this hysteria? Why do I not see you dancing? How much victory do you need to be victorious? Enemies, something makes me suspicious. What at the climax of your victory is it that makes you so scared? In your intimate madness, you'll keep listening to the rustle of leaves through the window. March, February, August, January, June. The sound of steps you want and steps you do not want. The cooing of delights and the droning of disasters. In such a night, when some stars die and others are born, when neither the dead are dead nor the newborn born, when neither the master is completely a master nor the slave completely a slave, when the bells have their silence and silence has its bells, what can you do? On the same nail from the same wall, hang the new calendar. That's all you can do.